I love
Oh.
the Bostonian rig. Look at that beast. It's amazing.
Built that about 2 years ago.
Sense saw that and thought, I can do one better. And he really went to town with it. He's got, RAM sticks. It's all LED RAM sticks and it lights up, and it's far too over the top. But
I'm not even using the headers on my motherboard that I can plug LEDs into. The lights from the fan,
there we go.
CPU, cooler was enough. I figured it would be overkill to try to add any more in there.
I've just got an MSI laptop.
Should we not give love to my baby over here?
Your 13-year-old piece of plastic.
I have the manliest one of all.
That's true.
See,
Everyone else has got rainbow lights, haven't they? So, guys, welcome to the KBG podcast. This week we're talking about the evolution of gaming, and we've got a couple of guests with us. I want to pass over to Phoenix to introduce himself.
Hello, my name's Phoenix, also known as John in regular times and places. And we run a D&D Twitch stream with various campaigns. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Great to have you. And our
That's what I
pumpkin
have.
octopus.
Great to have you.
So, hi. I'm Vulcan. Currently represented here by a orange octopus. And so I am a university student and currently live streaming some video game development on Twitch. So, a budding, hopefully upcoming game developer.
Great to have you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
welcome.
Thanks for being here, man.
So the first segment we want to kick off today with is really the start of gaming. The analog version of what we know and love today. The board games, the game workshops, the Warhammer painting. And we've brought Phoenix in really because he has this passion for this style of gaming, which, it's where our games ended up. It's the starting point. So his passion is very, very new for this as well. I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but I think it started in childhood for like a lot of us. Sort of went away for a bit and has really, really come back with a vengeance. Phoenix, do you want to talk a little bit to this?
Yeah. I think we're at just that perfect generation that have seen the complete change. I think there's a lot of the younger folks, of course the analog board games and everything are still super popular, but we've gone from that zone, that area of where it was entirely analog and completely just board games and things, to all of the amazing options that we've got these days. My first computer was the Dragon computer with the cassette deck that you had to put the game in, press play and walk away for 40 minutes and come back and see if it had crashed or not. And so going from that to all the bells and whistles we've got these days is really, really cool. The first ever my gateway drug, if you will, was the famous board game, which is just being re-released, I think now, Hero Quest. And my parents, bless them, got that for me for my birthday when I was just a little elementary kid, not knowing anything about it or anything like that. They let me run that for them. My dad was very happy and excited to be the bold barbarian. And so we played that a bunch and started running that for my friends. And then after that, we went more into the tabletop wargaming with Warhammer Fantasy Battles, the Games Workshop product. Games Games Workshop's a UK company, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Originally, yeah, it started in the UK, right? And they, they're super popular now. They've got a store in our hometown, in the up in the countryside, up in northwest England. So that wasn't available. Unfortunately, it was just all mail order and stuff. But we had White Dwarf magazine was their monthly thing, and got to get jealous at all the amazing skills of their miniature painters and terrain builders that they had in house. And we kind of moved away from that when one of our friends absolutely owned us every battle. He's had one friend that was really, really good at it, and like he would go to the shops and like beat the staff in the shops and stuff. So so we kind of we moved away from that and went into their role playing game, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which I was the GM for. Which thanks to my mum, she made this great little album for me. I don't know if this will come up well enough, but there we go. That's me in the back with the curtains and the red book there for the game. This is us playing in high school. The book is also here. I have that book still. And we so we were playing that, and then the other things from Games Workshop, things like Space Hulk and games like that. And then that's how it all started.
I never actually got to play. I got a set of models. They were Space Marines, and I sat there in my bedroom and I painted them blue. And I went and watched other people play, but I never actually got to like set up a bit of plywood and build out my battlefield and everything. We just didn't have the space. So it was always something so cool that I couldn't do. But I think that's
my dad was a bit gutted because my massive bit of plywood was supposed to be a model railway. And then but he bought me Hero Quest, so it's his fault.
There you go. And they're re-releasing Hero Quest, you say?
I think so, yeah. That I've a friend of mine on Twitter is being involved with the art for that.
Oh, fantastic! Have you played Baldur's Gate? Any of the Baldur's Gate games?
No, I haven't played the computer games. No, I've tried the new one. I've got in on the beta for that.
Baldur's Gate
and
3,
yeah,
So-
I'm enjoying that. But
I completely misunderstood the game. You know, right at the start where you crash and the Mind Flayer is laying there dying, and it goes, "Oh, kiss me, embrace me." I thought, well, that's probably a good thing to do. I could help him out. Click, and it killed my character instantly. And I was like, oh my god, it's so logical what you have to do, and it's a logical game, and that's why I like it so much.
you're coming at it from a purely non-meta point. It's like, oh, Mind Flayers. Okay, I'm sure that's I'm
They
sure he'll
seem
be a
like
great
good
ally
ships.
if I revive him.
Yeah, not so much, huh? But it's interesting.
So I've read too much about Mind Flayers, so I'm quite scared about this octopus down here.
It does look like it.
Yeah.
But you sort of stopped for a while, didn't you?
Music became my thing. So like from junior high into high school, I started playing the saxophone,
Okay.
and I was playing in a band until I was in uni. And then when I was in uni, I was clubbing, and we went out clubbing all the time. And then when I first, I live in Japan. Sorry, I didn't say that bit.
Can you
I live. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. So I live over here in Japan now. And when I first came here, we were DJing and running events here in the city, as well as a fantastic beach party that we used to do, which is actually where the Phoenix name comes from. That's what the events were called.
Oh, wow,
And
okay.
that was my DJ name before it was my streaming name.
Fantastic.
And the logo that is my logo was originally handcrafted from craft paper and projected with the light from a projector onto the side of a tent at the first ever beach party.
Is there footage of you DJing? Can we find this footage?
No, it's too long ago. So all of my embarrassing things are safely tucked away before technology became decent.
It's literally going to slice to you on the deck.
That is the greatest thing about growing up in the 70s and 80s is they ain't really got much on us, do they?
Never happened. It never happened. So yeah, that was a good time. It's a shame. I mean, there was a video that I put up on Facebook when it first ever when it first came up, but the file format is not supported anymore, so I can't actually see it anymore.
Oh, that sucks.
I think you might be able to see it on a computer. I think that might be a bit more robust, but on a mobile phone, you just can't watch it.
We could probably fix that.
Yeah.
Some skills. There's some skills knocking around here.
So you left, you got into clubbing, you moved to a new country, you had all your exciting adventures. What pulled you back?
It was sorry, a bit of a cliche, but it was the big shows like Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated, the really famous D&D shows that I started getting into, and I actually got back into it a little bit. We played a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay campaign with fellow teachers here in Japan when I was first here, and then that kind of rekindled the interest. And then I started, with the advent of streaming and all these people being able to put their games online, then we started to see and be able to watch that, and that got me into it. And then it was 3 years ago I started DMing for myself.
Yeah,
Now that you're more on a digital format playing these games, how much has the dynamic really changed compared to when you were face to face with people?
Some people have a problem with it, but I haven't. I actually enjoy it just as much. Reading that physical cue from someone when they're about to speak leads to people talking over each other a little bit, but I don't find that there's any loss in emotion or connection with the characters or anything like we just had. And actually, I think you saw some of this on the live show.
Brutal.
on the Friday campaign, one of the characters was killed. And she'd been playing that character for 18 months every week, and there was the death at the end of one session, and then recovering the body and getting to safety the next session, and doing kind of like a funeral thing, and like everyone was crying,
literally.
And
and
everyone in chat was like really emotional about it and stuff as well, and it was great. It was it was exhausting, emotionally exhausting, but I'm actually really happy that everyone had that connection with the story and the characters, that they were able to have that response. It was special. It was cool.
And that's amazing.
Really interesting.
That's amazing to me. They have that sort of connection to their character, and they're that emotionally invested. Because I don't get that with video games. That they can give me the highest sweeping love story arc or the most fantastic action movie-esque game there is. I just don't care because I've seen it. What gets me is when I'm in top 10 Warzone. There's 140 people who've already died. I've got 10 left, and we're going for the final circle. My heart's going and my adrenaline's up. And oh, Christ. Then I care. But it's so interesting that you can tell these stories and they can create these characters, and because it's all in your head, right? It's your imagination. That's got to be the connection. It's not just being shown to me. I'm imagining this. I'm involved with it. It's mine. That must be where the emotional
something
connection
that
comes
people really get vested into.
from.
Yeah.
Sounds like they put a piece of themselves into it.
Must have.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky with my players as well. They're a great bunch. And again, we're talking about the technology. That's one of the best things that's available to us these days, is just how much scope there is for playing together. Like on our channel, we have players at the moment in New Zealand, Brunei, Taiwan, Vietnam, here in Japan, the UK, and North America. And
so that's a very diverse group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're spread out all across.
It's like us in this group.
right.
Well, I mean, no, we're just we're spread across North America, and then one little bit in London.
Hello.
He's spread out. He's spread out everywhere in many different directions.
Yeah.
And they all have this passion for this, and that's what you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and a lot of them I've met actually. Here, a bunch of them were here in Iwaki, and then in Japan. But then, because they've moved on and gone on to different things, new things. But we've still been able to keep gaming together, which is really, really special for all of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why I love this, right? You can make friends everywhere across the world, and we all know everything.
Well,
about each other.
That's it. Yeah, the Taiwan and Brunei links are just other streamers that I've met. Just being active on Twitch and on Twitter.
Yeah, and I've got to say, Twitch is fantastic. 9 out of 10 people you interact with on Twitch are awesome. Everyone seems to just want to help and get on and enjoy what you're trying to put out.
Well, I mean, I was wondering about that. I was wondering if it was like my experience and if I was lucky that I just hadn't found the toxic parts.
I've had the same,
like,
There's a lot less toxicity on Twitch compared to a lot of other platforms.
Yeah, that was like the other day when I was building my PC. I had a dude and say, "Show me your titties for some bits." So I did it.
So take your top off for the biddies.
Yeah, and unlike Facebook, there wasn't someone reposting it and saying, "Look at this vulgarity." It's not that. I like that.
Yeah, people get get the intent behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and as you said, like 9 out of 10 times you just like go into some random stream and it's just a bunch of awesome people. I've never on other platforms I've never watched FPS players or anything like that, but then watch people like your good self Absi and people like EDH and people like that. It's just it's great, and just that interaction, that live interaction as well. Like my kids watch a bunch of like Minecraft and stuff like that, Roblox and all that kind of stuff on YouTube. But then there's none of that connection, none of that personal kind of experience.
Yeah, I very similar to yourself. I got recommended your channel via EDH, and I sat there, and you're in the marshes, and then you got
the patron saint of Phoenix Iwaki, because he was our 50th, so he got us the affiliate. That's why we have that connection.
EDH is brilliant. But I sat there and I watched your stream, and you're going through the woods, and then you end up at the hag's house, and and it was so intense, and how you then layer in all of the sound effects, and it took me there in my mind. It's almost like reading a
talking
book,
about the yeah. But I mean, talking about the technology, like I think, and this is one of our players used to work for Disneyland, so they're from Florida originally, or Disney World. Which one is it?
Disney World.
Disney World.
Well,
Disney
sorry,
World.
yeah. So she's talked about this, and it's something like it really is the Magic Kingdom because it has a soundtrack. Like no, there's no other part of your daily life except for like Girl from Ipanema in the elevator, where you have this soundtrack to your life, and they have tailored it so perfectly. Each zone of the place has its own different soundtrack. What I didn't realize, there's actually a bridge piece of music. The zones where you move from one area to the next. There's actually a different, separate piece of music that is a mixture of the two zones, so it bridges more smoothly. Yeah, between the two of them, and like the feeling when you leave, because the speakers are still like embedded in the pavement and the concrete outside until you get to the edge of the ticketing like booth area. And like that feeling when you just go beyond where the speakers are, like towards the car park, and the music dies away. So you just like feel hollow. You're just like, oh, I want to go back. And
that's
like,
not by happenstance.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And so one of the amazing things about technology and where we're at these days is that I have the ability to use our toys that we've got here. We use a service called Sirenscape, which is really awesome. They have a huge library of music and sound effects that you can tailor and match, and you can change all the volumes, and you can move like the 3D positioning of the sound, which is everyone playing with headphones is awesome because everyone gets the full experience. Especially my one of my games is a horror game, so like they're going through like this haunted house, and like my players are physically like turning and looking over their shoulders. Something like happens back here in the sound, and there's a great like horse galloping sound effect that it just goes through your head. It's like from one headphone to the other. Old rusty lock, but she fiddled away and got the lockpicks in there. And after a while, she heard a click.
Perfect.
And then all of the music as well, and you can tailor it. You can upload your own things. If you've got music that you're allowed to use, then you can upload that and then have that come in, and it just makes the world a difference. Like I said with the whole Disney thing, it's just that soundtrack to the experience, that soundtrack to the scene makes a massive difference.
So that's an evolution from the original board games. You couldn't sit there with your mixtape there. Well, I suppose you could make a mix like tape and then have sort of background music.
But you probably did the sound effects yourself.
Yeah. So the technology pushed it forward. And I see a lot on your streams, you use the sort of maps and you map out the world and move the characters across. That's obviously taken to the actual tabletop board. What's the next step? What's the next evolution to this format of gaming? What could take it beyond? Because obviously the audio gives it that extra layer. What could you then add beyond that? Or do you think this is like the pinnacle of D&D as it will be?
I think it needs that slight abstraction. I mean, the minute you said that, the first thing that jumped into my mind was like VR.
Yeah. And
like, so if everyone was like headseted up and seeing through the eyes of their character, that would be an next step and a huge immersive thing. But I mean, just the physical limitations of being able to move around, and I mean, they've got these amazing rigs and these things these days. But I don't know. I think there is something to be said for having that, being that one step back. As much as we've talked about immersion and being in the experience, like having that awareness that that you aren't there and that you are sharing this as a group of friends. I think there's something that plays off that and that makes that kind of amplifies.
The people aspect of it is going to make a big difference, because if you go VR, you go forward like that, how much will you lose of yourself in the creation of the story?
Yeah, and that video that you sent in the Discord about the AI learning in the games, that talk that was it GDC talk? That was really fascinating. But yeah, I mean, kind of the difficulty of like mapping emotions to the VR faces, things like seeing my friends just freak out from a reveal, like a big reveal in the story, or just the joy when they roll that natural 20 on the dice. You can see the dice in play here, down with our octopus friend, and just the absolute just rush of emotion, and just seeing their faces, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's interesting. It certainly is a much more connected form of gaming than what we play. We sort of play it. It's a lot of Call of Duty. It's a lot of first-person shooters. There's not that sort of emotional involvement that you get from Dungeons and Dragons. And even when I played the new Baldur's Gate game, right, I loved it. I thought it was great, and it's the first act because it's in early access and you can't go beyond. So you get to a certain point and it sort of stops, and that's disappointing. But even that, I don't think it is as immersive as what you have. When I sit in your streams and I listen to your stories and I hear, Count the vampire, and you were sitting around at a meal and like he's offering you wine, and I'm like, don't drink the wine, mate. I never get that in games, So I don't know.
Chat was screaming at the players.
Don't drink the wine. These are great moments, and you don't have those. At least I don't. And it'd be interesting to hear from the rest of the group about your gaming experiences. Is it just the sort of rush of adrenaline that Warzone brings, or do you look for a deeper sort of emotional connection with your games? Because it has been a lot of churn and burn from the big studios for quite a long time. It's like year after year, same format, same release type of thing. So what are your thoughts, guys?
I just like to shoot people.
You're talking about totally different genres of gaming.
But it's
you got the Call of Duty with the run and gun mentality where you don't really care. You want to get more kills than deaths, obviously, but if you die, you just spawn right back in. So there's really no loss. Whereas a game like what you're playing, like that character that lost her life after 18 months, the amount of time that was vested into the development of that character, not just for the player, but for all of you and everybody who watches on a regular basis, that's just so much more involvement than what we would get on the type of run and gun gaming that a lot of us play.
So maybe that's why Warzone is the next step for me, because you play team deathmatch, right? You run, you gun, you die, you spawn back in, you run, you done, you guys spawn back in. Whereas Warzone, it's an hour-long game or a 30, 35-minute, 40-minute long game, and you have one life, and that's it. You can win it or you can lose it, and you are invested in that character's progression over the course of those 30 minutes. I guess what Phoenix has is just a bigger evolution of that, right? It's
Far more extensive, but yes.
Death. Yeah, it's interesting.
Now, KOMAKOZ has a real connection with the characters from World of Warcraft. I mean, 15 years of playing it, and how many max levels?
15?
Yeah. So he's very vested and very connected with each character, and it is a storyline based game. So I don't know. He's pretty emotional about it.
Yeah, I think
part of me would like to get into, like, I don't know, like some type of game that's like that, kind of like an adventure type game that we all could play. I think that would be really cool, like an adventure to start from the ground, and then a game that just continues to progress on and on and on, and it never stops. Like, you have side quests, you have main missions. It has a storyline.
World of Warcraft, yes.
I feel like that would be really cool.
And the map. I mean, that map. How big is that thing now?
No.
Is there a connection? Sorry, after you, please.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've never got into those like massive multiplayer online stuff. Is it World of Warcraft that has the guilds and things?
Yeah, you can make guilds and everything in it.
Because I was wondering, do guilds like build up that same connection that that D&D groups do with their online game?
In my guild that I have on, I think we have roughly about 80 people, but a lot of people, had to make changes in their life. Just took breaks and but my guild's still going. It's about 80 plus people.
Mm-hmm. Is there the same investment in your character and the character's story?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, got some quests that's just for your character. You can do spreads out, but the storyline is what I really like about it. Each expansion, a bad guy comes out. You got to team up with your friends, your buddies, defeat evil. I mean, it's a really good game if you get in.
I mean, that's one of the connections, isn't it? I think most of the Critical Role cast are in World of Warcraft as well.
Yes.
And they're all voice actors, aren't they, from that genre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the DM, the leader of the group is McCree in that game. Which game is that? Sorry, sorry, my age.
Overwatch.
McCree, yeah.
Thank you, Overwatch. Thank
McCree
you.
has Overwatch, yeah.
So I would say show my age. Age has nothing to do with it. Just different fields of play.
Yeah.
And
That's
this
another FPS game, that's what I've grew up playing. That's all I've really known is FPS, because my first ever console was a Super Mario, and I think it was on the NES. The Super Nintendo, I don't remember. So it's the one with like the weird controller with like the little W or M in the middle.
SNES,
yeah, whichever. But that was my first game. But the first time I ever got into actually gaming was way back. Well, not way back. It's like 2009, I think, and that was
way back.
Well, yeah, sure. It feels
lost in the mists of time.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I have to look this up right quick. It was back whenever MW2 released. When did it release? I think it's 2000.
Yeah, it's 2009. Yeah.
My first game system was an Atari. Come on, dude. You're making me feel old now.
My first was Pong.
Yeah, pretty much. Pong.
Before
2009. Yeah, 2009.
PlayStation one.
That's when it released, was 2009, and that's when I actually sat down and actually grinded a game. I think within the first maybe week or so of it being out, like I played it nonstop from the time that I got up to the time that I went to bed, and in between I would eat. But through the time that I woke up to the time I went to bed, that was all I played. and I'd play with the same people over and over. I mean, that's how you bond too, playing with the same crowd. But like, we all would just, and I think I progressed like half of the prestiges in that game within like the first week or so. First 5 prestiges.
I think you've done that on Warzone already, pal.
No.
What are you talking about?
No, there's many people out there that are way higher level than me. They're like level 1000 max prestige. They can't progress no more.
I think the first game I was like properly obsessed about was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the PlayStation 2.
That was another one.
Yeah, I went to the Asda in Swanley in Kent, and like the 12 o'clock release, and I queued up, and I wasn't old enough, so I got my mum to come with me, and then I sat there for like the next 4 days in my room just playing it. And the one profound memory I have of this game is it had split screen in it, and my sister found a dildo in the police shower and beat me to death with it. In split screen.
Really?
It's going to leave a scar. It's going to leave an emotional scar.
But I have that memory of that event, and that's why I think like gaming communities end up bonding, because we've been on adventures together, right? We've lived and died on these things and quests together. So
there's definitely that parallel there, isn't there? Yeah.
Shared memory.
Yeah. Like and the story is like I find myself falling towards games with story. Like I'm yo-yoing back between and working with, because I've only recently got a decent enough computer to deal with graphics and stuff of recent AAA titles, and I've been just yo-yoing back and forth, working my way through the Far Cry and Assassin's Creed games.
Awesome.
And like, it's the story in Far Cry each time that you just bond with, and the villains, the bad guys are fantastic in those games, because like you take all that away, the gameplay is basically exactly the same every game.
Yeah, scope the village, shoot the guys, go in the village. Yeah, but who was just the Far Cry 3? Zaz or Vaz? He was like a psychotic villain. I always remember him as like one of the standouts. But it is the bad guys that you remember, huh?
Oh yeah.
Far Cry 4 was a pretty good.
Far Cry 4 was good. The newer ones I haven't really got in.
You could literally win that in 2 minutes. Oh yeah, I think there was a or I think you killed like like the boss like right at the front 2 minutes.
Oh, speed run it right to the end sort of thing.
Oh, there you go.
I like the Assassin's Creed games, but they got a bit samey for a while. I played the Viking one, Valhalla. That was good. And the previous one before that was Black Flag, the pirate game. I thought the pirate Assassin's Creed was very good as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where they mistakenly made the best pirate game by mistake. So they just threw it in there as like a fun mechanic. I was like, oh no, this is it. This is everything.
Yeah.
Daisy here says she likes Sea of Thieves because kind of got eaten by the Kraken.
Yeah.
I
That's
just
what you
had
get for
bad
trying to go
luck.
sail off by yourself.
And he won't.
One of my groups is about to set out into the ocean, so I'm looking at all the fun D&D monsters in the deeps.
Uh,
I had to get one of these giant octopuses.
Yeah.
yeah,
Got the same.
I got eat by one of those.
They're voracious. I think so. Yeah. There is, and I think there's the connection and I think the elation from succeeding at games like computer games is more frequent, because like there are those moments of elation and there's the huge success moments in role playing games, but I think there's more of a slow build to them. Whereas the in computer games it's more like right now.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. In Warzone, you can
Instant gratification.
Well, Warzone, it takes about a 20-minute build-up, but all your endorphins are going if you win that. And if you don't win that, you've got all this adrenaline. You're like, oh, what do I do with all this adrenaline now I've lost? So I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, that's like yesterday, man. We was pumped, dude. We won twice yesterday in Warzone, dude. Blood was flowing. And then when you get right down to the end and you die and you're not there to help your team at the end,
Oh, yeah.
it really gets you. Know what I mean? You like
there is that
the
flip
arms
side
of your
it.
chair, and you're like, fuck, hell, I wanted to be there to help my teammates out, and you know, sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's a good thing with D&D because that character of ours that died, she just last week she made her return as a new character. So you do
Oh,
get
that's a
to
good thing.
you do get to come back and join the end if you want to.
There is always some sort of special amulet, isn't there?
No, it was a new character because she had made a deal with the King of the Nine Hells that she could not be brought back in any way. So
Ah, okay. There you
Oh.
go.
Well,
that's why everyone was so emotional because I think a lot of death in D&D at the higher levels loses some of the impact because there are so many ways to bring characters back
Yeah.
from death and it takes cheapens some of the combat and some of the the life or death situations. But this the reason this was another reason this was so impactful is because everyone knew just what was at stake and how high the stakes were. So when she had to roll one dice, there was a huge line of rolls, a whole like string of circumstances that led to that one point. But it came down to one final dice roll that she was either going to succeed or fail, and it's 50-50. And she didn't make it.
No.
On
What is it? What is it?
5.
Is she excited to start a new character now that she's probably sort of gotten over losing their other one?
Yeah, but it took a while. Like I was that was another thing. Like I was really happy like with the connection and the emotions that everyone showed at the time, but I was actually quite surprised by how long it took her before she was willing to even think about anything new. She left it a couple of weeks. She's like, I can't yet.
It's amazing.
That makes sense.
Was it her choice to have the character die? Like did she kind of message you privately and say, like, can this character story arc come to an end? Or was it just a kind of thing that happened?
Yeah, it happened. Yeah. The choice to make her non-revivable and for it not to be able to be resurrected or anything, that was a few months ago. And so that was she was in tears like making that decision as well because she knew how scary that would make the rest of the campaign because if she was gone for good. So she did that to save one of the other characters. That was I'm afraid there's no footage of that because that was offline. That was her pretending she had to go out to the shops and she was on the phone out in the car because her fiance is also in the game, so she was keeping secrets. But just making that decision in the first place. So she knew what was at stake, but it was a random encounter, a randomly generated encounter that actually was the problem. That actually had the killing blow.
So you play as Dungeon Master. You set the scene. You lead them down the path. Do you have your own characters? Are you actively involved in any campaigns?
I am not at the moment. I'm about to start as a player, so I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Okay. Have you always just been more sort of drawn to the sort of DM role?
I like to know what's going on. But and also to give everyone that experience, I just love that so much. It's just like, I mean, I think saying lead them down the path is the wrong way. It's like, show them the various paths and see which one they run off down like headless chickens. Is more of the point. But the role of DM has changed a lot. We're talking about the evolution of gaming here. It's not just technologically, but D&D back in the day was just a meat grinder. Everyone turned up at a session with 5 character sheets because they were going to go through those characters. It was basically a different form of tabletop wargaming. That's where its roots came from. The original creators were looking to represent, and it was just dungeons, going through dungeons, fighting monsters, getting loot. It wasn't so much about the story and the connections between the characters. But that's been my experience coming to it later on. It's much more, and there are people that still play that way, and if that's the thing, that's really cool. But a lot of people these days, it's about the stories, it's about the connections and the emotional stuff as well.
I played Dungeons and Dragons back in junior high. I was actually in the Dungeons and Dragons club in school, and it was a lot different than I'm listening to you speak about it now. What you just said really hits home with me because that's how I remember it, being a lot more aggressive and a lot more fighting and not really as in-depth story maybe telling and making as there is now, which seems to bring a whole dynamic to it that I never really experienced.
Yeah, the kind of image they're going for recently is is group storytelling as opposed to this dungeoneering side of it.
Yeah.
From my experience playing D&D, because I played it a fair few years ago, I think it's very group dependent as to what kind of game you get. So there was always the option for group storytelling back when I was playing it in secondary school. But a lot of people who grew up in the video game era, and I say the video game era with consoles and PC, and a lot of those players saw it as kind of an extension of a video game. So I am here, I am a hero, I have come here to slay a lot of monsters, and so they played it very much as a combat campaign and competing with each other to who can score the most kills, do the most damage, and kind of without the emotional investment into their characters that actually these could be real breathing people, not just pen and paper killing machines. And I think I've played in a bunch of campaigns, some of which are fairly story heavy, and others they've never really got very far, but and others that were more combat based, and again they didn't get very far either. But that's just what you get when you're playing as a kid. Yeah, I think it depends who you play with and how the DM plays as well.
Yeah, I think I'm losing some experience of the variety of games because as DMing, because it kind of focuses in the similar style. Very very different stories and different genres, but the style of play is fairly similar throughout.
Interesting.
Now, I myself am a very poor gamer. They can all attest to that. I just die. But now, as far as games go, the World of Warcraft, the storytelling of it, that was always the one that hooked me. I remember when we started telling like some people at the GameStop, sorry for the call. They were like, man, this is like what 2005. We just discovered World of Warcraft. It's amazing. And they were like, no, that's crack. You're not going to stop playing that. If you start playing it, you're done. And we did. It was rough. I would dream about this stuff. It was in there. It was embedded. And then I had to stop because somebody had to feed the kids. So
I know what you mean about you start to dream about games, though. I was at a chess tournament in Gibraltar years ago. It's the English International Open. And it's like 5 days of chess, and you play like 3 matches a day. But everyone plays chess before and after. And then you go to dinner and everyone wants to sit down and have a beer and play chess. And you played so much that I started to dream about how castles moved and the rook's position on the board and could this. I thought, I've just got to stop. I've got to move away from this because it's becoming an obsession. And that's what I think my PC gaming's really become. It's now an obsession. I'm so invested into it. And it's not really because of the games. It's because of the community that I play with and everyone coming together. That's what I take from gaming. It's not so much the adventures or the rush of winning or the loss of losing. It's you guys as the community and what we're trying to do together.
actions.
Yeah.
It was like the amount of money that I've spent in PC part 2000 is like a lot.
It's not a cheap hobby.
No, it is not.
Mm-hmm. Like in the same way that I kind of go towards the same style of play, do most gamers like go towards a certain style of game? Like are FPS people like FPS all the way, or is
Some
people
of them.
like mix and match?
It just
Mix and
depends on
match.
who they are. Like
Yeah,
me myself, I can sit down and play just about anything, but depending on how good I feel the game is, I'll continue to play it or I'll just delete it.
I think everyone's got their baseline, haven't they? We've all got our
Yeah.
baseline of type of game that we will go back to if we're bored, and then you throw in the race games on top. And for me, it's race games, board games, and role playing are my variety. Whereas like Warzone, Call of Duty, Battlefield, shoot 'em, kill 'em, that's like every day basically. It must be similar for you. Everyone must have their sort of go-to game, and then try to find others outside of that.
Just to switch it up a little.
Got to keep it fresh.
Like, I mean, EDH, I don't think I've seen him, like, every time I've dropped in stream, I don't think I've seen him playing the same game twice. It's like, he mixes it a lot.
His go-tos are Rocket League, which is like car football, and Apex, which is Battle Royale. I think those are his two go-to, but he really is a variety streamer. Does lots and lots of different games. He plays a lot of old games as well, like the classics. He goes back and gets the emulators for the early games and plays them.
And does stupid things as well sometimes.
Have you seen his video of making mashed potato with his forehead?
No.
No.
It's worth watching.
No.
Just 4 potatoes on his desk. Spash.
I just managed to catch the end. He did a 24-hour stream because someone bet him to do it for 1,000 bits.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Isn't that like $10?" He's like, "Yeah," but it's the they bet me to do it.
He
And
went
then
out on his bike as well, didn't he?
Yes, and then the elation of getting to the end of the 24 hours and he just jumped out of his second floor window.
Yeah.
he came back, so that was okay. So that was good news.
I said to him he should have done a sleep stream right after, because he would have been like out 24 hours up and then the sleep stream. He would have been done. I
For
thank
another
you.
1,000 bits, right?
Yeah, for another
Right.
1,000. So many strange things on Twitch, huh? Really great things, but some strange things as well.
Yeah, Twitch sings was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, like-
hilarious.
Yeah, like a Snow White man taking his shirt off and swinging it around his.
Yeah, for 10 bitties.
Well, it was 100, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, 100.
Biddies for the biddies.
You're a good date.
That's the titties for the
I live
Now, go on, be honest. Was it just because it rhymed nicely?
It did. I couldn't help myself.
Phoenix, thanks so much for coming on and sort of sharing your passion with us. If
Nice,
anyone's
nice.
interested in Phoenix's channel, it'll be down below. And what was the sound effects? Who were the sound effects through? Because we'll put that.
Soundscape.
Soundscape.
Sirenscape.
Sirenscape.
Siren.
Okay.
Sirenscape. Sorry.
We'll get that link in there as well.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
We're gonna move.
They
on.
have free stuff
Speaking
they
with
can
you,
try
it's
as well.
Good to hear from you.
Oh, they got free
Yeah,
stuff.
thanks for letting me.
Sorry,
There's a few.
talking
There's
over
like
each
10,
other.
I know. Sorry. There are 10 free things that you can play with.
Okay, cool.
Not a sponsor.
Not a-
Just say. It's for fun. Yeah, thanks for letting me ramble on a bit.
Oh, it's great to hear, man.
Some fun to do.
Yeah.
I look forward to watching your stream.
Always welcome.
We're going to move on to the sort of evolution of gaming and game development with Vulcan, who's currently studying computer science and is making sort of independent indie games. But before we do that, does anyone need a break? Need to use the toilet, get a drink, have a smoke, anything?
Have a little loo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go-
probably
go
wouldn't
for
be
it.
a bad
Go
idea.
for it.
Yeah.
I'll pop to the toilet.
We'll put your music in here.
Hovering over that sign up button.
Is it still a monthly
Now-
subscription?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
$15 a month. But when you get the subscription, you actually get access to the original that came out, World of Warcraft Classic, and you can play all the way through that.
But you haven't got the add-ons.
No, they're actually single now. The World of Warcraft Classic is just the first they come out with in 2005, and it's only the first expansion. But you can go all the way to level 60.
Okay.
So I mean,
See,
just for
that's
that
what, that's
alone,
what gets me about that style. I don't like paywalls. I don't like the fact that you got to pay a subscription and then there's an expansion that's 30, and you've got 10 expansions that you haven't. It starts to become very expensive to play all of the content. You know?
I mean, we have invested obviously a ton of money in it in 15 years, but it is beautiful. I
Yes.
just can't. It's beautiful. It's an experience every time you go in to play it.
It's as
Yeah, but
Marath
how much
Gold
money
does
do
it.
you really spend when you look at how much time you put into the games?
It's
I
it's
mean,
good
it's
value for
really
money.
a nominal amount. I think it's a really good value compared to like other hobbies, which, in my opinion, would cost. I mean, just say go to the movies.
Oh,
You can buy a
Yeah.
video game for $60 and play that, just say for a year, and get 300 hours in it. How many movies would you get for $60? And
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, if
Free.
you went with
Depends
you know,
if you got
somebody-
LimeWire.
you know what I mean. Or golfing,
it's
go golfing,
same
or
with-
go friggin' to do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. It's the same with D&D. Like, the books are like $50-$60, but
Yeah, how
Yes.
long does that book last you? You know, how much-
hours and hours and hours. Yeah, exactly.
how many campaigns do you have going right now? I mean,
5.
yeah. So, I mean, you're definitely getting your money's worth out of that investment.
So
Indeed.
in the break, Phoenix has very, very kindly agreed to host a KBG Dungeons and Dragons night.
Yeah.
It's going to be a one-hit adventure, so we need to come up with some sort of character sheets.
One and done.
I'm good.
Daisy already got it. She knows.
She's
I got
already
it.
got
I got
her.
it. It's all in there.
Nice.
I think mine's going to be called Matthew the Coward or something along those lines.
Matthew the coward.
Good stuff. We're talking with Vulcan in regards to his experience with game development, indie development, and his take on the sort of future of video gaming. I'm going to hand it straight over to Vulcan and see what he's got to say.
Right.
Dot, dot, dot.
So, ooh, I feel like I should start with a bit of background because Phoenix did. My experience with video games started when I was a very little kid with the Age of Empires demo. Actually, it came on a disc with some other games, in a magazine. And the original Age of Empires 1 demo was my first foray into proper computer games. And so throughout my early childhood, I was a big Age of Empires fan. I think I have every Age of Empires game and all the expansions on disc somewhere. Probably with all the product keys as well and the manuals as well. They don't work now because they're on older versions of Windows. And I've got them now on Steam. The new updated one to work on Windows 10. But I mean, if that counted as proper PC gaming, maybe. But I kind of switched at about age 15 to playing Team Fortress 2. Back when it was free to play. I'm 23 now, so you can work that back a few years. Back in the high of TF2 was my first proper. I say proper. My first experience with first person shooters. After getting it past my parents who didn't want me to play them. So I managed to get access to that one. Yeah, and so my kind of preferred genre is sort of real-time strategy or FPS. I do kind of both. The World of Warcraft discussion, I never was that into MMOs. I didn't really try them, but I didn't get anything out of what they offered. So I mean, some people love them, but it wasn't. I don't think they appealed to me. I was much more happy with FPS and RTS and Civ as well. I play some turn-based grand strategy.
Love Civ.
So that's
Yeah. Civ
that's-
6.
5 all the way.
Yeah. Oh, it's 5.
yeah, that's kind of my gaming background. And I suppose they've changed quite a bit because they've changed a lot over the past 10 years, certainly, that I've been kind of watching video games. You know, it first started you had the big massively multiplayer battles on big servers back in the early 2000s with the likes of Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the early Battlefield games where you had 64-player servers, and I'm sure Counter-Strike had something like that as well. Big 64-player, big team battles, team deathmatch. And then gaming kind of shifted from big, large experiences on massive, with needing big beefy servers to run them, and everyone connects in and plays with the same community, to more kind of more small group games, kind of with it kind of in the era of MOBAs when you went down to the kind of teams of 5. So it wasn't you playing with all of your, with a huge pool of friends. It was you playing with a very, very small pool of friends. It went from big games to small games, and then it's kind of stayed that way. So I reckon about 2010. Yeah, so I reckon 2010 was about the time this stuff happened. And gaming has stayed relatively small groups ever since. But the next kind of big change, I can wave hi.
Pumpkin didn't wave.
Wave a tentacle.
Yes, Pumpkin.
There we go.
Although I'm in Japan, it's going to be flashbacks to certain sounds of anime. No.
No.
Sorry.
That is well outside of the YouTube guidelines.
So, gaming went from big games to small teams, and it's kind of stayed there. So, now with Warzone and the invent of Battle Royale, you've now got games that are playable 1, 2, 3, 4 players at a time, but you've still got the big team battle experience of having 100+ players in the map.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very kind of interesting way that gaming is going. You've got the big team battle experience, but you and your squad of friends.
Well, Battlefield's always sort of had that, hasn't it? Battlefield goes all the way back to 1940. Well, 1942, you had squads, but you couldn't spawn on them. And then I think it was like Battlefield 2 or Battlefield 2140, whatever it was. That actually.
We just clarified that that's the name of the game, 1942, right? The first Battlefield wasn't released in 1940. Okay.
No.
It's like, how old is that game?
No.
That's what I was hoping. Warzone, they would up it from 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we have a lot of people that want to play, and they're having to oust people out, because they ain't a bigger game mode.
That's kind of where the whole game modes of at least multiplayer ended up. Single player has stayed single player and story driven. But I think you're right from the Assassin's Creed mention earlier, and that the games ended up looking fairly samey in terms of gameplay. Scope a village, shoot the bandits in the village, loot the village, repeat. Lots of games follow that formula, but I think as player counts have changed a bit, some of the tech that's used has evolved. So we've moved recently, and everyone's going to be on about the cloud, which in layman's terms it's just someone else's computer. It's a computer, you just don't own it. That is the cloud in a nutshell. But gaming has very much moved to renting server space in the cloud, and cloud-based infrastructure. At least for the multiplayer games, all this matchmaking, it's all done in big data centers in the cloud. But on the consumer end of hardware, and you've got the addition of VR, and VR has been a thing for a while. Like VR headsets have been around. They're not new tech. They've been around for a long time. You could have. I'm sure they've been around for at least 20 years. The whole idea of a head-mounted display with virtual reality, but they certainly haven't been as affordable. They were very much big things that you had in big science museums would be the kind of place you would find something looking at that kind of experience. I think they certainly weren't available to the consumer until very recently, when they have come down in price and been far more accessible. So I think games may evolve down the VR space, maybe. And that means that how we interface with the games has changed as well.
Unpopular opinion, just to jump in. I don't like VR. I've got the Rift 2 or whatever it's called, and I sit down and I try to stand up and play it, and I can play for like 45 minutes, an hour, and then because it's a computer on my face, it's making my face really hot, and because my brain and the floor and what I'm seeing in the display doesn't match up, I start to get slight vertigo and I don't really know where to start. I start to spin out. And I tried to progress how I was playing, and I tried to lengthen the time in VR to try and train myself to like. But I literally had to stop playing for a couple of months because it was messing with me so much. Until they perfect it, it's a really cool gadget to stick on someone's head and go, "Hey, have a look at this for 20 minutes." But I don't think it's where we need it to be. I wanted to touch a little bit on your sort of game development experience, because I know you've been messing around and without giving away a few too many ideas of what you're getting up to. But what does the future of gaming look like to you as someone who's sort of being taught how to develop video games?
Well, I'll clarify that I'm not necessarily being taught how to develop video games. I'm going for straight computer science, which is a more general covering of computer science concepts, and a lot of that is fairly kind of modern and not directly game related, shall we say.
Okay.
I've done some work with robotics and mobile robots, and there's a fairly I've focused in my degree fairly heavily on AI, which is the big buzzword in the modern era is artificial intelligence, and oh god, isn't it scary? Or haha, isn't it terrible? Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Well, no, actually, it's a horse, but why does it think it's a cat? Yeah.
For those that don't know, what is that test?
That test. There isn't really a test. It's more a comment on object classifiers.
Is he talking about the psychological test with the
No,
ink
he's
blot?
not talking about the Rorschach test.
No.
I'm crazy.
This is why you have to clarify.
No. So I'm going on about machine learning and computer vision systems that are attempting to identify objects. So they're given a picture and they have to tell you what's in the picture. Google uses this for when you are searching for things. There's a bunch of sites online. I can't remember the names of them. But they will do a kind of an automated captioning of your photo. So you will give them a photo and it will say table, man on chair, drink, pizza and stuff. And it'll explain what, or it will try to explain what is in the photo and give you a description of it. And that is all with AI and machine learning techniques, which hopefully makes search engines a bit better, because if I search for man on chair with pizza, if the AI has seen loads of pictures and can, tag it with man, chair, pizza, then hooray, I get a picture of a man on a chair with a pizza.
I got you.
So that's the whole kind of computer vision aspect, and it's nice to show the specific cases where it works, but there are plenty of cases that you look at and go, yeah, that's kind of got it wrong.
Is it still, because it's pretty much in its infancy stage compared to obviously where it'll be in, say, 50 years?
Vulcan, sorry, can I ask about the machine learning thing? Because I'm also a computer science graduate, but I think 21 years ago and now is going to be a completely different syllabus to what we're studying. But in my kind of always kind of understanding and feeling of computers and things, it's a very kind of binary system. It's like it can do it or it can't. So how does a machine learn to do something on its own?
So I can link to some wonderful videos that explain these ideas much better than I can. CGP Grey has a lovely video on it.
It's a good source.
How machines learn, and I would urge everyone to watch that. As to how.
And the rest of his videos too.
yeah, they're all really good.
So good.
But can you just say that again? About machine learning and how does it work? That's kind of
What process does the computer go through
So,
to get better at recognizing pizza.
so now AI is a big topic, but we're gonna zero in now on a very specific subfield of AI. We're gonna so the whole image recognition is a separate field, but specifically what we're currently on is convolutional neural networks, which is a big word. And basically, you get a picture that goes in. You run it through a rather large amount of mathematics and linear algebra, and out the other end, you tell it to give you basically, is it you have kind of like numbers out the other end. If is it a cat? If so, put a 1 in the cat box. Is it a dog? Put a 1 in the dog box. Is it a horse? Put a 1 in the horse box. Is it a pizza? Put a 1 in the pizza box. And it kind of goes on like that. Is the kind of basic idea. And through algorithms that I could explain, but I feel like that's a whole separate computer science chat. So if you give it an image, you can give it an image to go in, and because you as a human know what the image is, you can say what the answer should be. You can tick the boxes and say, okay, this should be a cat and not a dog, not a horse, not a pizza. And so you give the image to your program, which runs the neural network, and it does a lot of mathematics and linear algebra, and it comes out with the list of answers of what it thinks it is. And then you score it, and you say, okay, you were wrong by this much. It should have been a cat. You said it was a dog and a horse. Well, that's wrong. So, and then there is another algorithm that takes how wrong it was and works backwards and tries to improve the process and the algorithm that the algorithm and method that it encodes. And the idea of machine learning is it's used for problems that we as humans don't know how to solve. If I have a problem and I can describe to you an algorithm or a set of instructions how to solve it, then I don't need a machine learning system to learn anything. The machine learning systems are here to solve problems where I can give you examples of the problem working, but I can't tell you how to solve it. I can say this is good, this is bad, this is what it should be. I can give you so many different cases of what should happen, but I can't tell you how you get the answer. And you hope that this bucket of linear algebra and mathematics, through some very clever rules and application of mathematics, you can try and get the computer to figure out somehow how this combination of numbers can get you the right number at the end. Is that kind of making sense?
Like traffic flow systems, that sort of thing.
There's some temples here in Japan where the artists needed that algorithm, because there are some pictures on temple walls here of elephants and tigers when they were only described verbally what they were, and they're amazing. It's like,
yeah.
So you can tell it's supposed to be an elephant.
Yeah, so that's how machine learning works. Is it's used for the problems which humans don't know how to describe, how to solve them, but I can give you examples of what is correct, and I can give you examples of what is incorrect. I can tell you that I can tell you the right answer and I can tell you the wrong answer, but I can't tell you how to get the answer. And that's what the machine learning is doing, is figuring out some way of combining numbers together mathematically to get you the answer, sort of, occasionally.
Vulcan question, like,
yeah. Let's get back on.
You and Phoenix are obviously smart chaps, and you can talk all the algorithms and long maths you want, but we don't. We're gamers. We don't care about that.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't care about that. So why should gamers care about AI? How can it be implemented in games? And have you seen any evidence of this? And what does that look like?
So I can tell you that the games industry is interested in AI, but not necessarily for the purposes of improving the gameplay. Okay. There are a lot of jobs going at the moment for data scientists to do data analytics. So all that data that they're collecting about the gameplay and how players play, they're running that through machine learning models to try and get a better sense of what players do, why players do it, what works, what doesn't work. And there was a talk by Blizzard on how they're using machine learning models to better combat toxicity in Overwatch, which was quite interesting. And they actually had a bunch of reductions in player toxicity overall, and a general better confidence in the fact that their report system and ban system for cheaters and stuff was actually working. But as for AI actually in the gameplay, not yet. And I don't think AAA is going to be the place that's going to pioneer this first.
Well,
Probably
AAA
because
is
it's
tried
too
and true, right?
experimental.
They don't go outside of anything that's not going to make them
because
money.
Yeah, I think it's just too experimental. Is the reason why. There's no guarantee that, given a machine learning system, it will even give you the right answer all of the time. It will give you the right answer most of the time, but it'll be wrong, because no system can be 100% correct. And it takes a lot of, so it's a fairly new field, right? The only reason that AI has come along so far in recent years than it has is because of the advent of general purpose GPU compute. Neural networks aren't a new thing. They've been around since the 1960s, 1970s. They just didn't have the computational power to do them at the scale that was needed.
Yeah.
So they've only recently come back because of hardware advances. But I think you can see them in some games. So I know that Supreme Commander 2, a real-time strategy game, has neural network-based AI. So the AI in that is a neural network that will learn, hopefully learn and adapt to how you play, I think. And again, the other real-time strategy game, it seems to be a thing about real-time strategy genres. The game Planetary Annihilation Titans, I think, is what it's called. That also has neural networks that power its AI that you play against. So that's quite an interesting application of them, but it hasn't yet made it to the action shooter genre.
I saw it was in some of the card games, like Hearthstone and all this type of thing, and
Yes.
they got an AI to play an AI, and it didn't matter. It was whichever one went first had the advantage, and statistically it always won. So I completely get the application of AI in the gaming industry for sort of cheater banning and analyzing gameplay flows and how to improve your game in that sense. But if we had an AI opponent, it seems like we would never win as humans. It would be beyond us in every application that we put to it, like Deep Blue and chess, like in the 80s and all that sort of stuff.
That is the question. And I think that's why most games, I mean, game AI isn't proper machine learning. It is old techniques. They've been around for 20 years and it hasn't really changed. It's the same stuff that was happening in Half-Life is the same AI that's being run now. With a few, it's a few tweaks, but it's the same basic system. Actually, I think the current hip one is behavior trees, which is Halo.
Yeah.
So Halo was the first thing that pioneered behavior trees. And all the modern games, all the bots in those, they use a system similar to that. So really, the tech hasn't come along a huge amount. And I think you're right on that one. I think if you had a bot that beat you all the time, it would be no fun. You don't want to have your ass handed to you every game by an AI that just has more computational power and can just see more moves ahead than you can.
Yeah, I'd end up breaking something. Over a stupid AI, I'd end up breaking something.
I wanted to ask, actually, as gamers, like, how would you feel about smarter bots in games?
I've never played.
I feel like it'd be a good thing and a bad thing.
I would
again,
like
like I
to be
said-
able to play a bot game and have it be as challenging as playing against another live
Actual
person,
players.
Which
Yeah.
now it's not even close.
So you'd have to limit the AI. You wouldn't have to have an unbound AI. You would have to say have an AI as good as a human. But
see, how do you
where
put
do you
AI
put
to
it?
not be 100%?
Have a slider on the opening screen.
Yeah.
How hard do you want your AI to be?
So there is something that has arisen in fighting games. The whole like side on fighting games. And Nintendo has something like it with their amiibo system in Smash Bros. So you can train amiibo fighters in Smash Bros. You can train them against you, and then you can take those amiibos to your friend's house and console and plug them in and have the fighter that you trained against yourself play against your friend
It's literally
on their
Pokemon.
console.
Can I just show
Kind of.
something? Can I just show something off just because we mentioned Nintendo?
Go on. Oh no way! Where did you meet him?
In the Chicago airport.
Oh, that's
Just by chance.
fantastic.
Sorry.
So that's how you said you wanted an AI that was kind of on your level. So they are training. So there are games that have these bots, these agents. I've forgotten what they're called. Forgotten the exact name for them, but they are virtual. They are agents that learn from how you play, so they can play as good as you, and then you then have an opponent to fight against who is on your
Okay.
your level.
So to riposte to that, Warzone, which is a game we all sort of play in here, that used to be free-for-all lobbies, right? Everyone from any skill used to get dumped in and you play it. They then went to a skill-based matchmaking system, so it takes your KD or whatever system it looks at and says, okay, these people are similar to you, so I'm going to group you in the lobby. So it becomes incredibly sweaty because everyone is trying their absolute best because everyone else is as good as them. So it almost reduces your chances of winning. So I go back to the question, is there an actual space for AI in games, or is this the reason why the gaming industry has never looked at it as a serious option because of all these pitfalls,
I think you'll need a different kind of game, and I don't think you can just plug in AI and learning agents, because that's what AI in games is. The application of it is learning agents that will learn something about the game or get better at it more than a human can describe. And I think you need a game that would be based around the AI rather than trying to tack them on as a side thing. You can't go, we've got a first-person shooter, quick, let's put machine learning agents in it, because that's not going to work. But if the machine learning agents were part of your design from the start, then maybe that would have more. That would have.
What
more
would be
meat
a
to
sort
it.
of example of that? What type of game could you design around AI?
Let's say I think there's something to along with the idea of you training alongside your buddy. You getting better with your buddy, your clone, your counterpart. So maybe there's a first person game. There's not a first person. It could be an action adventure game where it's you as a player, and you have an AI learning companion that goes through the game with you,
AI pets?
learning as you do. Or as a player, or as a companion. If you don't have a friend online to play with you, you can bring along your AI companion. And taking a look at, if you want another way, maybe if you had an AI that learned to play like you, and so I'm going to use Left 4 Dead as an example here. That has a lovely drop-in, drop-out system. You can play with your friends, and then you can just click the button that says out for lunch, and your player suddenly gets controlled by a bot. The bot's not very good. It can't play itself, but it immediately gets taken over. And maybe there's space for training AI that play like you. So if you have to go and go and answer the door, get some food, go to the toilet or something, you can still keep playing in the game, but you let the learning agent take over for you for 5-10 minutes. As you go and do something.
Sense
so it'd be like
from
the
Warzone, the AI carries on running instead of him, sort of thing.
Yeah, so if a player gets disconnected, like there's like a tracking agent or something within the game that's built in that keeps track of it keeps track of your progress somehow, or however you play, or however many kills you get on an average game, or
That'd be really useful
a
to have,
certain
like,
route you kind of run or something, and then they'll kind of take over with that. They'll kind of go back and follow back on that, like a follow plan.
Yeah, which could be
Right.
that could be a use of them. I think lots of AI in games exist in the turn-based sphere. Like lots of turn-based games have very powerful AI behind them. Just because of the algorithms that exist, and there is no need for real-time thought. Like if you take Civilization, for example, as you're taking your turn in the background, the AI can be thinking about exactly what it's doing on its turn. it can pre-compute so much of its, options and possibilities, and only then, when you end your turn, does it have to go, actually, maybe I'll think about a little bit more related to this player. So, but I think the real-time sphere is a very, very difficult one to approach, because the AI needs to be fast. It has to respond fairly quickly to things, and be good, and actually operate in a continuous space, which is a lot harder than any kind of turn-based system.
It's interesting.
So, in your opinion, where do you most see AI benefit in society moving forward?
Ooh, where does AI benefit society? So I think delivery jobs. That's going to be one of them.
Logistics, yeah.
Yeah, logistics and delivery. So I swear I read something about. I'll see if I can find it. But like, so like Amazon's been thinking about like drone deliveries and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, but not necessarily with drones, because that's flying in airspace, and that has its whole set of problems. But if you take that
Tesla.
idea and you put it onto little robot buggies, maybe I order my takeaway, and I say, I want my takeaway delivered to me. Thanks. Well, like, if the takeaway shop has a little robot buggy that appears, you put your takeaway in it, and then it drives along the pavements, crossing pedestrian crossings, driving along pavements to get to my house. When it's outside, it gives me a phone call. I go downstairs, pick it up, and then the little buggy turns around and drives off back to wherever it's going. I think that would be a benefit. I mean, there's a lot of talk about logistics and Amazon, right, and how the workers want to unionize, and quite rightly so. They have been overworked a lot, and they have these delivery schedules that are often very, very detrimental to their own well-being. But having automation in the warehouse and in the delivery and the logistics.
Well, they do have some of that
Would just
automation
make
in
things run more
warehouses for
efficiently.
semis. They have a pallet that goes into the trailer, to the front of the trailer, and then that pallet starts pulling back, and there's little rollers that just roll the pallets off into the trailer. It takes 5 minutes to load a truck, whereas it used to take anywhere from a half hour to a couple of hours to load a truck. And the same process in reverse for unloading the truck.
Yeah.
That AI is similar to the one they have in going back to games. Like some of the AI and some of the the recognition that they've got when you're doing like the driving games, and you've got the cars and stuff, and just they react so quickly to you doing random things, and the AI, the way the AI deals with NPC kind of characters, and other people on the road and things is really interesting.
I think Rockstar are actually developing multi-server systems, so they'll have one server for their traffic flow system, one server for their NCP flow system, whereas before it was like a conveyor belt, 2 blocks around you, roll on, roll off type of thing, whereas it's multi-layered and sort of being streamed into your hardware. It's like, that is like the sort of cutting edge of it, I guess. Have you got any further thoughts, Vulcan?
On AI and how it's
AI games,
society.
the future, what the future holds for us all, what your cool project is.
My interest in games and AI is how we can use learning systems to make better AI agents in games. Yeah, and so it's not an obvious challenge. A video that I've linked in the channel, in the research chat there, which shows EA trying to use neural networks to play Battlefield, which is quite a scary thought. But I think that's the wrong approach. I don't think you can just throw end-to-end machine learning at this. but I think you can certainly make existing techniques a bit better. So are you aware of AlphaGo and how that kind of worked? So the AI that they trained that beat the world's grandmaster at Go, which seemed deemed as the next game beyond chess. They Deep Blue beat Gary Kasparov, was it at chess?
Kasparov.
Yeah, and so then they had AlphaGo that beat Lee Sedol at Go, and became the best Go player in the world. But that used it used a similar search algorithm to the chess AI, that it played out moves, and it kind of looked ahead into the game and tried to see, okay, if I go here, who's going to go next, and so on. It kind of played out so many possible games, but it used AI and machine learning to help inform which games were worth exploring. So if I see the board in this state, should I bother seeing what happens if I play next? Or is this just kind of a bad, or does this board state feel like it's not a good one to consider looking at? Like if I get to here, do I think I'm going to win if the board looks like this? Or maybe, and if it doesn't think it's going to win, then it'll maybe try a different move instead. And actually, this move's kind of bad because I don't think it's going to win. But how it works out if it's going to win is, well, Go is too big to look all the way to the end of the game. There are far too many moves, too much to actually look at it exactly. But it uses the machine learning system again to just guess. So it takes in the board state and a picture of the game board, and it outputs, do I think I'm going to win or not? And how does it know if it's going to win? Well, every time it plays a game, it tracks all of its moves through the game, and then at the end of the game, it knows if it won or not. So it can then use that to learn, well, this move that I did here led to a loss in the end, so maybe it's not a very good move. And so it does that over millions and billions of games. It keeps playing and eventually learns, or tries to encode, the look of this board looks like something I've had in the past that led to a loss. So I don't think this is a very good move to even think about looking down. So I can just not bother thinking about doing that because I think it's going to lead me to a loss.
So it speeds up its processing.
Yeah. And that's how I think AI can be used. Not going put the AI through the whole thing, but using the AI to shortcut the computationally difficult problems.
Yeah.
As gamers, do you want like bots and things that can do? Sorry, the Japanese word keeps jumping into my head. It's called zurui, which is basically just being unfair. And do you want bots that can just immediately run out all of the different possibilities and decide what's the best? Or do you want a more human thing? Because there's something in D&D which is a big taboo called metagaming, which is player knowledge versus character knowledge. There's a lot of instances where, especially as a long-time player, you know what's happening, or you know what a certain kind of creature is, but your character wouldn't. and it's a big thing. And so, I mean, as gamers, how do you feel about bots that would be able to, make so many computations and look at so many possibilities and things?
Well, like App said, I think there would have to be a cap. I mean, because it would get to a point where you just wouldn't ever stand a chance against it. It would just be, it would already have calculated every possible scenario that you encounter and would have the right move instantaneously. So there would have to be some way of letting the AI learn to get good enough, but not to exceed that point where there's basically no human that has any shot of beating it. So there's a fine line there, I think, that would have to be, walked.
That bit where y'all was talking about it playing for you, I mean, at some point that's going to be cheating. And somebody is going to just use that, just sit back and let it do all the work.
It all depends. If it's based off of you're playing, like if you had an AI, let's just say helper, like in Left 4 Dead, that was a great example. When you leave, the character is taken over instantaneously by a very rudimental AI.
Mhm.
That would be if you were playing a game and it had that same idea, but instead of it just being a random bot that took over, it would a character that has been based off of your playing, your game style, basically a
So-
mirror image of you,
My thoughts
would
are-
take over for you.
my
It wouldn't
thoughts-
be any better than you.
My thoughts have sort of changed about where AI's place in gaming is. Coming into this discussion with Vulcan, I thought it would be very much like the enemy team would be the AI, and we'd go and attack them, and they'd understand the rules of the game and use their intelligence to play against me. I don't think that's the place for AI in gaming at all, because as we've established, it can compute so much more than us, right? So it's always going to be better than us. And again, this is a question to Phoenix, really. Do you think an AI could ever be implemented? Say that you would have the Wizards of the North, AI that specifically it was the Dungeons and Dragons AI, and it was taught every version of the book, of the rule set, of all the adventures, and then it was left on its own to create and become its own dungeon master and lead the characters through this world and describe the world. Would that be
Ultimate
more of a
min-maxer.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, one thing I've been thinking, going back to what you were saying about that AI creating that Eminem song, and there have been these haikus and pieces of art that have been completely created only by AI. It'd be fascinating to see, could an AI create a campaign and create a story that brought about the same emotional response from people watching as we did with that character death a few weeks ago? Would that ever be possible without the human elements there?
Could
See,
it
I
take
don't
that
think
emotion?
so.
Could it take your
Yeah.
inputs and learn from that and realize that you are emotionally invested and then play to that?
Yeah.
Could it take
I mean,
the
I
whole
hope not on a fundamental level. I hope it does. I hope there is that human part that is necessary for that. Because I mean, storytelling is such an ancient thing, and the spoken history and that whole culture is such a fundamentally human thing that I mean, in many ways, it would be a shame. Although, I mean, it was when was it the Final Fantasy movie that was completely CGI? It was all CGI characters, and when it came out, everyone was like, "This is the end. Actors are going to be losing their jobs." It's like, this is going to
Wasn't
take
it
over.
Avatar? Wasn't it Avatar?
It was definitely. I think it was a Final Fantasy.
All right.
One, but I mean that hasn't happened. Everyone wants to see real actors still. So
My hope for AI is just to get the hackers and cheaters.
There you go.
That's certainly how they're applying it currently.
Well,
There you go.
someone
Nice.
should tell Warzone that.
Yeah, for sure.
Call of Duty in general has never been good at policing their own games.
could they develop an AI bot in each game that just goes after people that squat at spawn?
Would like that.
There you go.
Or
There was
a
an
bot that just, if you're recognised to be hacking, just constantly kills you. Just always
Yeah.
killing you. Yeah, I like that.
Is that an appropriate topic for this podcast? Because I can bring in something from TF2 on that answer.
Let's hear it. If it's not, we'll take it.
So, if anyone's tried to play Team Fortress in casual mode recently, they will know it is plagued by troll bots. They're not even trying to win; they're just trying to ruin the game for everyone.
Wow.
They are trolling and griefing both teams, people on their own team and the other team. I don't know why, they just do. Because people thought it was funny, but some people have developed anti-bot bots, which are bots that join the server and explicitly are and so there's checks in the malicious bots that stop them acting against each other. so the malicious bots don't end up griefing and trolling and trying to kick the other malicious bots off the server, which is a really horrible thing that I don't know why the bots are even doing that, but someone's just being evil and horrible. But yeah, as I said, someone has developed bots that detect those bots and actively go after them. So they join casual matches, look for the signatures of these AI in the games, and then they aimbot against them, vote kick them, and basically work as they are vigilante bots going after the griefer bots.
Like white blood cells.
That's what I was thinking.
Which I thought was quite an interesting solution, because the bots are plaguing the game, so someone built a bot that fights the bots, and just tries to get rid of them from the servers instead of just hoping that the players do it themselves, which I think is quite an interesting development. So yes, you could use bots that try and detect cheater bots.
The only way to stop a bad guy with a hack is a good guy with a hack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's
So
true.
you could program the AI to land down like how it does with the skill-based matchmaking. The AI bot could detect that this certain individual is going into this game, and it could program itself to go into that game as well, land down next to that person, and just destroy them.
Instantly.
That would be
Instantly kill him.
Yeah.
blow them up with an RPG or something, or just instantly lock onto them and kill them, and then leave the game, so that way everybody else can enjoy the rest of the game.
There'd be no one less than the server's sense. It'd be me, you, and Koz.
Pretty much. Yep.
Guys, we're at the 2 hour mark, or just after. So I want to thank our guests for coming on.
Thank you. It was
Phoenix-
very informative and interesting.
Yeah.
Likewise, it's fascinating.
Phoenix
Thank
and
you.
Vulcan, it's been awesome to listen to you guys. That was the KBU2 podcast. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
See you
Bye.
guys.
Ciao.
Yeah, it's good, guys. Well done. That was awesome.
I gotta turn my computer off and figure out what's wrong with my hard drive, and I'll be back. Because for some
Hurry
reason
it up,
it's
because we got some
unplugged or something.
Warzone to play, pal.
Yeah.